Okay, good morning. My name is Aaron and I'm here to bug you guys with yet another application for a loan. I thought this would be the ideal location to shoot the intro because back in season 2, this is where I shot my intro. This is the exact same spot. Not much has changed. You can't see the mountains, of course, because the fires in BC, the smoke from those fires. I look a little bit older, I'm sure, but I'm still just as determined to get on and compete with you guys as I was then. In that casting video or that application video, what I sent you was a lot of the stuff you've been bored by a million times. I sent you, I think, friction fire, cordage making, shelter building considerations, all that good stuff. But I didn't actually show you I had the parts to do the job. So in this video, what I've done is I've been out for the last 2 months just filming the stuff that I've been doing, really cool stuff, and I'm sending you snippets of those videos. This is totally new stuff, innovative stuff, a lot of it you've never seen before. I'm going to send you some traps you've definitely never seen before. They work. I've tried them. I created them. I'm going to show you some of my my hunting techniques that I've been practicing. I'm going to show you my foraging and preservation strategy for long-term survival, and I'm going to show you a really cool shelter project I took on. It was the one I wanted to build if I got in the show. Basically, it's a sod treehouse 12 feet above the ground using no cordage. So this is my application video. I know you guys are really busy, but please take the time to watch it because there's a lot of cool stuff in it, and I've got a lot more cool stuff, innovative stuff that I'm working on right now that I'm going to continue to document, because if I get another chance at casting, I want to have stuff to show you guys. Last time I got an opportunity to cast, I didn't have anything to send you. I had like 3 days to get stuff ready, and I just wasn't ready. I even said to my wife when I sent this stuff off to you, I didn't do enough to earn that spot. So this time around, it'll be totally different. I'll have lots of stuff to show you. It starts with this video. What I want to do today is a bit of an experiment. I've been doing a lot of research on primitive hunting techniques, and I'm always trying to, you know, to add tools to my toolbox as far as being able to go out there and harvest animals. And I've been coming across over and over again blowguns. I don't know anything about blowguns, but they do interest me. And from what I can gather from my research is that, you know, although they're very popular down south, you can make them out of sugar cane, all sorts of materials. Up here in you know, the North Country in Alberta, indigenous people that I'm aware didn't use blowguns, and there could be a reason for it. There's not a lot of material that would make an ideal rifle type of bore. So I started thinking, what about bark? You know, I'm always experimenting with bark here. In my part of the country, we've only really got 4 trees: pine, spruce, fir, and then aspen. So we're very limited to what kind of bark we can use. This is just fir. I've just scraped it down and then torn it off the log. It's good stuff, good material, fairly robust. It's not as good as birch bark, but it's pretty good. And I was thinking, you know what, that might make an ideal platform to make this blowgun. So that's my thing today. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to try to make a blowgun. Okay, so all I've just done here is I've just removed the bark down to this cambium layer, this edible stuff, because it's nice and spongy, and this will be the inside of my bore. And what I want to do is get it thin enough without punching through that it'll roll nicely. Let me just show you what I've got going on here. I had a fire going so I can get some coals ready for my glue. Here's the actual bark. I've got it rolled up on this small sapling just to dry out a little bit, and I've got it just lashed in place with these pieces of wire just so it takes its shape. I brought this can from home just so I can make my glue in the fire. I was able to find this piece of sap from a spruce tree, which is a nice sized chunk, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to melt that down, and then I'll mix it with my coals and with these deer droppings that I'll use as a binding agent. So that'll be really good for the glue. I've also got this small piece of squirrel hide, and this is the reason why I take time to skin squirrels, because they don't have a lot of hide on them, but I can cut this into some rawhide and probably get 3 feet of cordage out of it, which will be nice to wrap this thing once I have the glue in place. Okay, so that's the consistency that I want right there, as you can see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm basically just going to paint it on there. So I need to make this so it's waterproof, right? Okay, here, let's see if we can get this on there. Okay, I've got most of my pine resin glue applied here. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to keep it over subtle heat, and I'm just going to keep working it in until it's nice and smooth over all these seams so that no air can go anywhere except for down that tube. So you can see how sharp I can get those just by clipping those on an angle. And then what I plan on doing is just spreading this out as much as I can. I'm going to leave it in its sheath here, because that's the continuity that's keeping it together, and I don't have any cordage with me. So I'm just going to throw this in there just like that, spread it out, and we'll see how those things fly. I mean, they might not fly at all, but we'll see. Okay, so the orange on that wall is about 10 feet away, so I'm going to see how tight of a group I can get around that orange and hopefully hit that orange. Boom, gotcha. That's super impressive. So I was shooting at about 10 feet. I did 3 groupings. Every group I was doing, I was getting a little bit tighter, and I'm just impressed by how well this blowgun's working. It's super short. I mean, look at it's only a foot long, and I'm hitting this group at 10 feet. Look at the penetration I'm getting on this stuff. Look at that. I'm at least a centimeter into this wood and into the orange. I'm about 2.5 inches into the orange. So if that represents a little bird or a squirrel, that's a pretty good penetration kill shot as far as I'm concerned. So there it is. That's a Bushcraft blowgun, made totally of bark, and that I'm aware it's the only one that's ever been made. So I'm really happy with the success of that thing. I'm going to go ahead and practice more with it. I fired basically 3 groupings, and you saw how tight they were. So that's a pretty good time investment, and I think a really good tool to add to the old inventory when it comes to survivability out here doing bushcraft stuff. Okay, what I'm attempting to build here, and I've never done it before, is a live trap for medium-sized game. Okay, I'm just going to give you a quick look at how the actual lid to the trap turned out. Turned out pretty good. I used a few lashings here, and then on the mid support here I put a frame support here, so I just lashed that in place with some snare wire, and then at the front as well, just to ensure that those notches don't come apart because there's a lot of stress on them. There's the inside of the trap. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up the trigger system. Basically what happens is the animal comes up these steps like this, takes a peek inside, is enticed by the bait that's behind the trigger system, comes inside, drops off, hits these trip lines, which causes the actual trigger system to fall. So the trigger system is basically just this spacer attached to my trip lines, and then I have a breakaway log here that's split in half right here. And it's a super heavy structure. This lid is probably over 100 pounds. So by design, what I did was I created it so that when the animal's inside, if it's a coyote, a badger, something like that, it has to really get up on its hind legs to try and get out, to try and force this open, but it's not tall enough to allow it to get full extension of its hind legs, so it can't get the leverage it needs to get out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, bait this thing, and then first thing in the morning come back, kill whatever's in it, waste the fur, throw the meat out. I just want to see if it works. No, I'm just kidding. I would never do that. This trap is highly illegal in Alberta. It's a $50,000 fine if someone even stumbles onto it. So as much as I would love to see this thing work, I'm not going to risk the fine, number one, and number two, I'm an avid outdoors person. I consider myself a steward of the land. I like to educate people on this, on the resources out here, and not abuse them. So I'm going to go ahead and take this thing apart as much as it pains me. But if I were to bait it, I would use something like fish tailings, fish scraps, small rodents, parts of birds, anything that I'm not using, I just throw in there. I'm confident that those smells would ferment and draw the predators and draw the scavengers into the bait area, into the trap, and that I could actually bag a medium-sized game animal. And this is exactly the kind of trap that I would build if I were on loan. It's a risky trap because it takes a lot of calories to build. It's a full day's work, a lot of cutting, a lot of pounding in, a lot of carving down, a lot of notches and things like that. But you know, if you can make it work, there's a huge payday at the end. So this is the kind of trap that I want to do if I can get on the show. So all I'm doing today is I'm just going to build this mouse trap that I've had in mind for a long time. I've never seen it done before. Be interesting to see how it turns out. And I'm going to call this mouse trap my Larry inspired mouse trap. I'm going to use these bark strips to line a hole in the ground, and then I'm going to put a roller on it, and when the mouse walks out, hit the roller, it should fall to the bottom. There's my rock. Okay. Put a couple pieces of gravel down there just to fill the gaps up, like that. By using this gravel, like this, around the bottom, where the animal is going to be stuck, it can't chew through. So it can't chew down through the ground or into the ground and dig, because those rocks are there. And then right there I've got the gravel lining the couple of bottom inches of the actual bark. Can't chew through and come back up. So I'll just secure this in place with some of this clay here. Okay, so that's basically the setup right there. I've got the tunnel in place, as you can see right there. I've got the sod around the actual canister, and I've got this area open. So what I plan will happen was the mice will come through this tunnel, come down the tunnel. They're the only ones that can fit in there, hopefully. Investigate the bait station here, the roller, try to get at that bait that I've embedded again, and then fall down into the canister. So that's my plan. Hopefully it works. I'm going to go ahead and cover this thing up, and I'll come back tomorrow morning to check it out. Okay, I'm just going to check on this Larry inspired mouse trap that we built the other day. I was up here yesterday and I made some improvements to it because the mice were actually getting into the trap. They were getting the bait and they were getting back out. So I made some improvements I think probably work. Oh, I did not expect that at all. Hopefully you can see that. I've got snakes in my Larry inspired mousetrap. That's unreal. I never expected that at all. Okay. I gotta get him out of there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wear my gloves because I've actually been bit by these little guys. And a lot of people don't realize these little garter snakes, they have a mild venom to them. And actually this guy might just come out himself. So they have a mild venom to them. Yeah, he's coming. And there he goes. That's one. Okay, so there's my Larry inspired mousetrap. Very simple. I use just a roller, a simple roller made of snare wire and or just a small twig, and then I've got just a tube made of bark for the mice to run down into the trap, and then I just had this canister that was buried about 2 feet in the ground. Catches mice. I know there's mice in there because my bait was taken, but it also catches these little beautiful snakes. I had 2 snakes in there this morning. Just a pretty little garter snake, super sleek. It's highly illegal to harvest garter snakes in Alberta, so I'm going to let this guy go. I just want to get him out of the den. But a beautiful little animal. Anyways, the irony about this trap is it was Larry inspired to try and keep mice at bay in your shelter. I didn't catch any mice in it, but I did catch a snake, well, 2 snakes, and mice don't go where snakes are. So as far as I'm concerned, it worked. All right, I'll see if I can bag a little mouse or a little squirrel. I've just got a sunflower seed just embedded in this bait stick here, and you can use anything. Use those spruce and pine and fir cones and just break them open, get those little tiny seeds, and they work just as good. But just for convenience, I'm going to use that. Oh, come on. I'm just up here checking on my mouse traps today, and this little deadfall with the figure 4 trigger system, it just keeps on producing. Every day I'm getting a mouse in it, and it's funny because I've been experimenting with a lot of live traps for rodents. And it's like they're such elusive animals, they keep getting out of my live traps for the most part, and it's like if it's not broken, why fix it? This little deadfall seems to produce over and over again. Alright, I'm 2 for 2 on my traps today. I caught snakes and I caught mice. I got 1 trap left to check. This will never produce. Alright. I am absolutely done with this trap. This was my greatest idea ever, my live squirrel trap. It doesn't work. Squirrels go in there every day, they take the bait, it closes on them, and then somehow they get out. It doesn't matter how much weight I put on top of there, they get out. So what I've learned from this exercise is that you can't live trap squirrels. And why would anybody want to live trap squirrels? It just seems like it was a bit of a challenge of an experiment. It doesn't work. At least I can use this basket for foraging, because it does have a lid on it. It's upside down right now. So it's still a good forage basket. It is a good basket. It's just not a good squirrel basket. So 2 for 3 on the traps today is pretty good. I'm happy with that. Okay, I am an absolute firm believer in bushcraft hacks. Okay, if you can be creative enough to come up with hacks to make your life easier, it's going to make any survival situation that much more bearable. One of my favorite hacks is, as you see it, Bushcraft Ladder. Now, this ladder is different than any ladder you'll see on YouTube, see in any books, anything like that, in that it's held together only with dovetail notches, okay? There's absolutely no cordage on this thing. Super simple to build, resource friendly, and you can use it for so many different things. It's a multi-use tool that you can use around your camp. It makes life a lot easier. So I can use it not only for climbing trees, but I can use it as a bed, okay? Or I can use it as a drying rack for firewood, or as a drying rack for smoking meat, preserving meat. So very good tool. Or use it for the obvious. Use it as a ladder to climb trees. Okay, so there you have it. So basically this is a 9-foot ladder. I'm 6'3", so this essentially gives me the opportunity to get 15-16 feet up into the air to do foraging, raid nests, build a platform for hunting, anything like that. Beautiful. Nope, nothing in there. This is what I love about these ladders though. You know, basically I'm able to reach this nest that's 15 feet up off the ground safely and conveniently. You You know, it's just a really underrated, undervalued bushcraft hack that nobody uses, that I use all the time because it's a great tool to have around the camp. I'm really quite excited about this hack. This is a bushcraft chair that I've been thinking of for a while. Just finally got it thrown together. I've never seen it anywhere else, but it seems to work really, really good. Super simple. Basically, it's just two ladders and held together with notches, like everything I do, always notches, and then a bit of snare wire just to secure those joints so they don't break because I'm sitting on it. But when I put these two ladders together, it worked better than I actually thought it would when I tested it, because it forms a bit of a lounger. So I've got the structure there, and then I just put my planks on like this and like this. Bushcraft chair installed. It's done. Boom. Essentially now what I've got is a bushcraft chair. It's really, really stable. It's another piece of furniture that I can add to my long-term survival strategy. Anytime you're out here doing a survival scenario, you're trying to get comfortable, trying to improve your conditions, this is the kind of project that I want to take on constantly. I visualized it in my head. I wasn't sure if it's going to work, but it seems to work really, really good. Now when I'm out at my fire, or I can take it inside my shelter, I can sit here, get comfortable. If I've been foraging, fishing, building all day, just relax. I don't have to hunch forward on a log in the soaking rain and be miserable and uncomfortable. I can just kick back and relax. And you know what? I could probably use this on a larger scale and build an entire Chesterfield out of it. That's probably going to be the next project. So that's good. Bushcraft chair. What I am about to reveal to you is the most important bushcraft hack ever. Nobody uses it. And I'm surprised nobody uses it because it's super simple and it makes your life a whole lot easier. Aptly called the throne. And again, like everything I build, really simple construction, just saplings held together with these dovetail notches. They don't need to be tight. They just have to be able to support pressure. There's no hardware, no cordage or anything on this tool, but it literally took me 15 minutes to build, and I can have it for the entire length of my stay at a camp. It's called the throne for a reason, right? It looks like a chair, it doubles as a chair, but it's actually a bushcraft toilet. And you know what? It's so simple to make. I can't understand how any self-respecting bushcrafter doesn't go out, spend the 15 minutes they need to build this thing, and then use it every day. Because basically, it's one of those things where you can just use it, pick it up, move it to a different location, use it again, and there is value. There is value to going out in the morning, doing your business, and not having to hold on to the trunk of a tree, and hopefully you don't fall backwards while you're doing it. It makes doing your business every day a comfortable, relaxing experience. Bushcraft throne. So my challenge today was to try and forage an entire meal out of this 10 by 10 area behind me that I've got marked off in 1 hour. It was 1 hour, so I stopped foraging. Now there's still tons of edibles in here. It's just that because I only gave myself an hour, I'm not gonna bother picking them. But there's still lots of stuff in there that I could harvest if I took more time. Let's just quickly go over the stuff I've got here. As far as protein goes, my goal was to try and find a cup of bug protein. I didn't meet that goal because I didn't manage my time properly. In hindsight, I would have done it a little bit differently. These bugs didn't start moving around until about, you know, basically until the end of the foraging challenge, because the sun was coming out, they were getting warm, they started moving around, and I was able to see them and swat them with my hat. Before that, I couldn't see them. They were there, but they just weren't moving around. So next time I would spend a lot more time getting bugs. I thought I'd get more bugs, but I didn't take into consideration that it was a cold morning. These earthworms, I basically turned over 2 pieces of sod. I was able to get 3 earthworms. So if I was to spend another 15 minutes harvesting bugs, I easily would have got that cup of bugs that I was shooting for, because that accounts for 60 grams of protein, roughly, which is a huge portion of your protein needs for the day. So that's a really untapped source for protein and calories, the bug world. Moving on here, let's look at what else we've got here for the salad. I've got these dandelion shoots coming into fall, like I said earlier, so they're probably a little bit bitter, but they'll still make a nice base for the salad. I've got this moss just for a bit of volume. And then as far as berries and flavor go, I've got these fairy berries, which are really, really good, hard to find. Like I said earlier, they're excellent for using as bait for rodents or for grouse. They just love them because they're a rarity for them, as just as they are for us. I've got these rose hips, which are so sweet you can make syrup out of. The only thing is you've got to de-seed these, which is easy. You just pop them open, push the seeds out, and then eat the flesh. So that's not a big deal. You can't eat the seeds. They'll give you a condition called itchy bum. They don't feel good coming out the other end. And here I've got some buffalo berries or soap berries. They taste a little bit bitter, but they're full of sugar and calories as well. They add a lot of color to that salad. As far as my tea goes, I've got some aster and some needles from a sapling spruce, and then I'm just going to add a couple of those rose hips as well, and some strawberry leaves just for flavor, because I couldn't find any strawberries, but that'll still work. There's still nutrition in them. And then I'll also add these juniper berries because they're packed with vitamin C. So that's my meal here. I'm going to go ahead, get everything processed down, prepped, get a fire going, cook these bugs up, and then have a nice dinner. Alright, those are just about ready. This is steeped enough here. Just going to take that off, let it cool down a bit. Give those bugs a couple more minutes. They've only been on there for about 4 minutes. So. Okay, here is the tea that I made. And as you can see, it's steeped really well. I'll try it out. It's actually pretty good. It does have a hint of strawberries, even though those were just leaves, so that's nice. And those juniper berries don't taste too strong though. And of course, the main course, the entree. So I'm just going to throw all the bugs in here. They're well done, as you can see. Probably seem better over there. I'll just put them on my main meal right like that, and we'll start eating. Do it. Okay, so there's the meal that I was able to forage in that 10 by 10 space in 1 hour. Got my bugs well done there, worms, grasshoppers, all the greens. Should be a good one. Should get lots of berries in there. Get a hint of those worms. They taste like they smell, you know, on a rainy day, but not bad. And the grasshoppers are just crunchy. They just taste actually really good. You see the grasshopper right there. It's the moss that's hard to swallow. It's very, very chewy. So that was my 10 by 10 1 hour foraging challenge in the books. One last piece of grasshopper there. There's a leg. There was a leg on there. What I want to try to do today is make the first ever that I can determine mouse pemmican. I'll just quickly show you the ingredients that I've got for this bone-in mouse pemmican that I've got in mind. Very, very simple and micro-preservation at its best. So I've just got the one mouse here, and then I've got to add to him some choke cherries. What I plan on doing is just processing this stuff down, mashing it all up, and then smoking it for a good length of time until it's nice and brittle, dry, dehydrated, and preserved. There's not a lot of meat left on a mouse. I've kept everything I could intact. The head is still there, the eyes are there, the brain is there. I can use all of that in my pemmican. The only thing I've taken out are the limbs of the arms, the tail, and the entrails, because I couldn't get the hair off the limbs basically, so I took them off. But these entrails and this fur, I can use in my other traps. I can use them to bait coyotes, badgers, skunks, things like that. So that's good stuff. I'm going to hold on to it. So you can see that he's crushed up pretty good. Okay, his eye is still right there. But I can't feel any of those little bones in there. So it's well worth including those bones in your pemmican. Why not, right? Just extra calories. They're full of bone marrow. There's my mixture right there, my mouse and my crushed berries. So I'll just mix those guys in really good now. There is my bone-in mouse pemmican mixture right there. As you can see, I left all the pits in the choke chairs. Not a big deal. When I cook them, I'll be able to eat them. So I'm going to go ahead, get my fire set up, get my smoke stand set up, and start smoking this thing. Here's the cooking setup that I'm going to go with here. Like everything I do is super simple. So basically, my pemmican mixture, which is like glue on there right now on that rock, will just go down on top of these two crossbars like that. Okay, and then I'll use this blanket right here just to cover up the entire thing, just to contain the smoke when I start my fire. So it'll look something like that. There it is. That's the setup I want. I'm getting plenty of smoke on that pemmican. I don't think it'll take all that long to cook, maybe 46 hours. I'll keep a watch on it, keep watching the consistency, but it's such a thin spread that it should smoke fairly fast. Well, it's been on there for 4 hours now. I checked the consistency. It's dried, dehydrated out, so I think we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and take it off right now, and we will give it a test try. So actually the rock broke, see that, but it's fairly good consistency. I'm happy with that. Okay, let's try this bone-in mouse pemmican of mine. So that's the consistency you're looking at. You can still see the redness from the berries, but it's bone dry. Actually, it's pretty good. It tastes like burnt cherries, that's it. I think if I was to do it next time, again, I'd take those pits out, because they're pretty hard. I mean, you can eat them, but they're definitely hard on the teeth. And I'd also increase the rodent mixture, so I'd add about 50-50 mix of rodent to cherries, just to beef it up a little bit more. But that was a good experiment. My first mouse rodent pemmican, bone-in rodent pemmican. And full disclosure, I know it's not real pemmican. There's no suet, there's no fat in it, but it still is preserved rodent protein and fruit that you can take into the wintertime and use in lean times. So it may not be real pemmican technically, but the same principles, the same idea applies. It's still preserved food that you can use in lean times. So I'm really happy with the way that turned out. That's pretty good. I'm just going to show you the shelter I've been working on here. Basically the bushcraft project of a lifetime. Like a big kid, I felt like a big kid building this thing. I just loved it. It was awesome. It's a Sod Treehouse. So that I can understand, it's the only Sod Treehouse in the world. I've done some research, so I'm pretty proud of that. It's really, really cool. I built it for the long haul. It's got a clay fireplace in it. But what's really amazing about this thing, it's on a 10 by 12 structure, 12 feet up in the air, but it's held together only with notches. There's no cordage, no hardware, nothing on this thing. It's a true bushcraft treehouse. I preached the treehouse in my last casting video. Didn't have a chance to build it. I built it now just to prove that I can build it. And if I get the chance to get on a loan, I will build it again. Doesn't matter what the environment is, if we're in the tropics or in the far north, the boreal area, or even higher. I would still build a treehouse for a couple of reasons. It's a huge calorie expenditure, but once you have it done, this sod structure is extremely well insulated. It hammered rain, didn't get wet inside. Number two, I can see everything. I can see anything coming at me. You know, if it's game, if it's deer, if it's bear, whatever it is, I've got the advantage. I can see it before it sees me. So just quickly show you the platform. As you can see, just a timber platform, but there's absolutely no hardware, no cordage holding this thing together. And even these rungs on these ladders, this is just basically a dovetail that I pounded in place, pounded these timbers into place. Okay, let's go up, take a look. I'll give you the tour of the place. And here it is. Here's the Sod Treehouse. I'll just give you a closer look at these notches right here. You can see just held in place by its own weight, and each notch, there's hundreds of them on this structure, or support another one. So I had to really think this out as I was building it, but you can see everything is just notched in place, and then weight holds everything together. Built these windows and that door there just by using simple notches, right? They just slide back and forth, just as a door hinge would. And it's nice having those. And I can always, if it gets cold, I can always thread through this lattice work some bark. Spruce bark or fir bark is ideal to close them off, give me a little extra protection when it's cold outside, so nothing comes howling through. But the way I orientated this is that this faces south, these openings face south, mountains are to the west, the wind always comes out of the west, so wind shouldn't be an issue here. Here's the door. So that's the exterior of the shelter. The deck space, which is nice because from this deck space I've got a great vantage here. I've seen lots of deer come through here. There's deer trails up on the hill there. Lots of deer come through here when I was building the thing, and you know, with my sling bow, my slingshot with arrows, you know, make an ideal platform to do some hunting from. So not only is it secure up here from bears and things like that, but it's a great hunting platform. Let's go inside, take a look. Okay, so you can see I'm set up really good here. I've got my fireplace here. It's a clay fireplace, and I'll just tell you something about this fireplace really quickly. Really proud of this fireplace. My plan was to constantly come up with new things, creative things, so that moving forward they'll leave an impression on you guys. And so I built this thing, this clay fireplace in the sky, kind of out of necessity, because it is a tree house. I need something that's not going to start on fire when I'm trying to keep it heated, but also because it was a pretty cool idea to have a clay fireplace built in the sky. 2 days after I'm done this thing, I watch the latest episode of Lone. I think it was episode 5 or 6, whatever episode it was that Randy built the clay fireplace. I'm like, oh, another one of my things got eaten up. This bed here is super comfortable, and as you can see, very simple. It's just made with lattice. See, it's only held together with lattice and weave work, and what I like about it is that you've never seen anything like it. It's 2 pieces, so it can move anywhere you want. It's the mattress basically, and then the posts. It's not the traditional bushcraft bed in that, you know, it's just a couple of logs on the ground and then have some cross-section logs just to get you up off the ground. This is a really functional bushcraft bed. I've never seen it before. It's only held together with weaving and lattice. Lots of space underneath to store stuff. So it's just a really comfortable bed. It's one of those small things that makes your life so much more bearable. And the way I designed it is that I'm close to this fireplace. right? So I can just throw firewood on there in the middle of the night, stoke it a little bit, and then go back to sleep. By the way, when I built this thing, I put the series on YouTube and on a YouTube channel. And it's not that I wanted to be a YouTube superstar. I started the YouTube channel after I got deferred from you guys last time for a couple of reasons. It's called Valley River Jude. You can see the entire 15-part series. It's on there from time lapse of the finished product to the first day when I picked the site. And you can see everything working. I use the bed, how I move this stuff up here into the platform, one piece at a time, how I built this clay fireplace, used it, tried it, tested it, all that good stuff. Basically because I wanted to document you know, the things I'm doing. I knew last time I sent in my casting videos, even before Quinn got a hold of me and said that I wasn't moving forward, that I didn't do enough. I said to my wife, I said, babe, I didn't do enough to earn that spot, and I knew it. I didn't have enough time to do the things I wanted to do. The whole intent is to show you guys, you know, when I'm building this stuff and I'm doing these traps on my own, that basically, you know, I'm creative enough to compete. Not only do I have the skill set to compete, I'm not the best survivalist in the world, of course, but I have the skill set to complete, but I'm also creative. I'm creative enough to come up with things that you haven't seen before, use my innovation, use my background to create new things. And I think that's my biggest asset. I can't look at chaga and turn it to fire just by staring at it like some of these guys. I have to work at everything I do, and I have to think out everything I do. You know, I have more failures than I have successes. When I was building this thing, literally hundreds of notches to hold it together. Every notch supports the next one. And do you know how many notches I screwed up doing it? More than there are on this treehouse. I had to rebuild things over and over again to make it work. To me, this challenge is not just about the huge payout, which is, you know, massive. It would be life altering, life changing. I could afford a house for my family. For me, this challenge is more than that. You know, this is a test of everything I've done in life to get here. Of the 20 years I've been practicing survival bushcraft, of all my military experiences, of my time as a contractor, small business guy, all these things that I've done in life that I've never been good at, but I've found a way to grind through. This is the culmination for me. This would be a huge opportunity. I'm under no illusion though it'd be the toughest one I've ever done. You know, for me, being away from my family is huge. That would be a huge issue for me because I'm such a family guy. I love my family. You know, but at the same time, the opportunity is one that I can't give up on. And I'm just going to keep on bugging you guys. Quinn and Heather, I'll apologize in advance. I'm just going to keep on bugging you guys until you say, Aaron, you're not getting on the show.